Hey, how's it going, guys? Sano here. This video is going to be a bit different than my usual ones. Today I'm going to be talking about the Necklace of Durance / Sea Halberd changes and how I think they're going to affect the game, as well as talk about the comp that the North America Lizard Squad will be using going forward. So, what is the big change? The change, which was announced as a bug fix, was that the Necklace of Durance, as well as Deadly Blade and Sea Halberd, now have their anti-regen effect applied to everything like it was originally intended. What this means is that if you build any of the three and activate it via basic attacks for Deadly Blade and Sea Halberd, and via skill attacks for Necklace of Durance, it will now reduce the healing effects of everything by 50%. Whether that be Spell Vamp, Natural Regen, passive effects like Killing Spree Assassin Talent, or Magic Lifesteal, or absorption effects like Shields will all be reduced by 50%. These newly fixed items will heavily influence the game, not just as a means to counter specific heroes like Esmeralda anymore. Instead, they will shift the entire meta as we know it. At least, that's what should happen. With North America being a little bit slow to the party as always, it may take a season or two before the general public starts integrating Sea Halberd and Necklace into their builds, but you can expect regions like Southeast Asia to be a lot more faster on that. So, who does all these two items affect? Also, going forward, I'm just going to be mentioning Necklace of Durance exclusively instead of the three, just to keep things simple. Let's start with the fighters. Pretty much all the fighters will be affected, as most of them rely on sustain via regen effects or spell vamp, which are both affected. While it's not the death of all fighters, fighters that sustain via shields are still viable. What do I mean by this? I mean that Necklace of Durance affects shields differently than regen, so heroes that don't rely on sustain via spell vamp but rather with shields, for example Freya and Bedang, are still plenty viable as long as they build Oracle. Now, why is that the case when Oracle also boosts spell vamp? Allow me to explain why. Necklace of Durance affects spell vamp, lifesteal, and regen of any kind by reducing their healing effects by 50%. Simple, but how does Oracle factor into all this? It doesn't in a weird way, due to the way that Necklace of Durance is calculated against spell vamp and other normal regen effects. Let's say, for example, Leomord regens 250 HP via spell vamp on a stomp. With Necklace of Durance, that would be 125 HP regen with a stomp. With Oracle, Leomord would heal 300 HP via a stomp. However, Necklace of Durance calculates HP drain after the Oracle buff, so it would actually reduce the 300 HP to 150 HP, 50% of what it was. It's basically useless. But shield-based heroes are calculated differently. The drain would be applied to the regular shield first, with Oracle calculated second. What this means is that Oracle on a spell vamp / regen hero would only reduce the drain effect to like 40% instead of 50%. But on Oracle on a shield-based hero would reduce the drain effect to 20%, which is still fairly large when you consider people like Freya have a 5k HP shield, but it's small enough of an effect that shield heroes like Bedang and Freya are still viable. Now, with that being said, who will basically die due to the Necklace of Durance / Sea Halberd buff? I think the following heroes will fall heavily in usage once Necklace of Durance and Sea Halberd become a staple in builds. The fighters Alucard, Thomas, Leomord, Terizla, Bane, Alpha, Hilda, Lapu Lapu, Roger, Martis, Sun, and Zilong should all see a significant decrease in usage with the Necklace of Durance buff. The rest of the fighters are Aldous, Argus, Cho, Dirov, which has to be a tank build, Freya, Guinevere, she can also use Necklace of Durance, so she's still semi-viable, Jawhead, he gets his shield reduced, but still pretty good, Kaja, Masha, who has been buffed to be more of an assassin type, Minthar, Ruby has a really weird passive that doesn't really calculate that well, but because of that same reason, she's still viable. Sylvana, but has to be a bulky fighter build, and Exborg, whose frigate armor is considered as a shield, and Yuzong, the new black dragon fighter that has yet to come out, who doesn't look like should be affected at all. These fighters will all still be viable even in the presence of Necklace of Durance or Sea Halberd. Now, how will the tanks turn out? With the tanks, it's far more straightforward and less gimmicky. Basically, any tank that have gimmicky sustains outside of Uranus will die. That means Hilda, Hylos, Bauman are out. Esmeralda is also out despite the fact that she is shield based. There's just simply too many burst type heroes for Esme to properly function, and she's not a real tank, so Necklace of Durance still kills her, as it's enough to allow the burst heroes with crowd control and all that to kill her. Masha has changed a bit to be an assassin, so she doesn't really count. Mino may fall a bit, but his usage has already dwindled significantly since previous eras, so not much to be said there. Uranus, however, will still be viable as long as he builds Oracle due to the shield he has. That being said, he still has Regen and Shield both affected negatively, so he does need to be played a little bit more carefully, but he should still be viable. Aside from these ones I've mentioned, every other tank should still be viable. Fighter Grok took a hit, but pure tank Grok will still be strong. The only tank that will come out of this stronger than ever will be Boxia. Remember all those heroes I said that should be fine when facing Necklace of Durance and Sea Halberd? They won't be fine if they meet a Boxia on top of that. Boxia has an insanely powerful passive of built-in 30% anti-heal when he hits you with a skill. Considering his ultimate is AoE and has a refreshing spam both skill too, if we pair Boxia with a Sea Halberd / Necklace of Durance user, that's a whopping 80% anti-heal and nobody is surviving that. Freya's 5k HP shield isn't surviving that, Uranus isn't surviving that, Badang isn't surviving that. They're all gonna get wiped by Boxia. Next up are the marksmen. How will they fare? Pretty good for the most part. While they lack in survivability in the sense of just standing there and outgunning their enemies now, assuming their enemies are building Sea Halberd and Necklace, keep in mind that all of the marksmen can also all use Sea Halberd. They will still be as critical as always. The only one that really gets hurt would be Roger. Yi Sun Shin would also get hurt because he's a close range marksman, with his upcoming revamp which gives him 1 second of crowd control immunity and 30% damage reduction after using skill 1, that will no longer be the case. The only two majorly affected marksmen outside of Yi Sun Shin and Roger who got affected by this pretty badly would be Carry and Granger. Granger loses his incredible Bloodless Axe sustain build but is still powerful with his burst, and Carry can no longer run the tank build because it does not have enough sustain. But it's still really good because it's Carry. As for mages, all of them will be good, seeing rises in usage, especially the slower ones like Vexana. Nuclear mages like them use Necklace of Durance the best, especially with Vexana's ult, which does constant damage, which guts your ability to heal off of a creep or anything like that to sustain it. All that being said, Alice does suffer quite a bit, but is still usable because of her damage and the fact that she's a Necklace of Durance user herself, so as long as she plays her cards right, she should still be very good. All assassins should be fine, while some of them will notice significant sustain issues, they're just simply too invaluable to the game. That being said, pure sustain assassins like Alucard are completely dead, but the rest of the cast should be fine. In fact, I predict that most assassins will adapt and go all in risk reward. They will opt for less sustain, but for more burst to combat it. Lastly, the support class. I believe that the support class will be as strong as ever. In my opinion, there's honestly no real supports in Mobile Legends. Moonton can't make supports, they make overpowered heroes with the support tag. Rafaela can easily spread Necklace of Durance and does tons of damage for support. Same with Diggy and Carmilla. Carmilla is tanky as hell, Diggy is a cancer bird, Kaja is a burst mage who can also use Necklace of Durance really well. The same thing with Faramis. Estes will suffer a little bit, but Estes, as long as his teammates build Oracle, should be fine, unless you're facing up against Apoxia, in which case he is completely screwed. Angela should see decrease in usage because she's just not as powerful as the other support users, and while she can still run Necklace of Durance just fine and all that, I just don't find her to be as appealing as Kaja, Faramis, Rafaela, and the rest of them. As for Lolly, Loletta, and Minotaur, they're tanks, so who cares? Alright, now then, what will I be using? What will the North America Lizards use in this new meta? Well, none of us are really that active. We just have fun analyzing and making cancer new comps. So don't expect us to go to Evo or anything, but here's what we've been thinking of as late. Freya, Yi Sun Shin, and Boxia. A trio-based team as we simply aren't active enough for 5-mans and we need far more practice with it before we can actually start running 5-man comps. Freya, in this case, is our top laner and premier fighter as she is currently the strongest fighter in the game, basically able to fulfill any role. With how the current NA meta is set up with 4-man roam ganks, in which they usually leave the bot laner alone and gank top, which is their bot, then mid, then bot. However, with Freya, where she comes in is that she can typically handle this kind of gank, which allows our bot lane marksmen, either Yi Sun Shin, Popo and Koopa, or Maya to get fed. Yi Sun Shin and Maya are pretty standard, they get fed and then they apply pressure on the bot lane, but with Popo he actually has a rival and could switch lanes with Freya once he's fed enough to cover top, while Freya would overpower the bot lane offlaner. This would absolutely cuck the 4-man roam composition and break their formation. Either they gank bot and let Freya get fed, or gank top and let our marksman get fed. Or they'll break their formation altogether and split their resources, which is exactly what we want, and that's why Freya is just so powerful. Yi Sun Shin is going to become one of the most powerful marksmen in the game post his revamp with his powerful and unique kit that allows him to use Demon Hunter Sword, Golden Staff along with crits. Combine that with his close range crowd control immunity and 30% damage reduction, he's quite a force to be reckoned with. Though he's not going to be the strongest marksman in the game by any means, he's more than powerful enough to be use of us, which is why I selected him from the options. I really like Yi Sun Shin's real life history as the martial lord of loyalty and love his unique kit, which is why I picked him over Mia and Popo. That being said, if by chance Yi Sun Shin does get banned, I will probably be either using Mia or Popo. Both are incredible options that offer unique aspects to the team. Mia, in my opinion, is going to be the strongest marksman in the game post her revamp. It's just incredibly powerful. She synergizes amazingly with Freya in team fights, as is Yi Sun Shin and Popo. She's just an amazing tool overall. Popo and Koopa, on the other hand, offer something completely different to the team. Instead of the typical marksman prowess, they offer extreme objective prowess due to their tower pushing capabilities and farming speed. Like I described earlier with Freya, Popo fits in this comp to break the enemy 4-man roam composition exclusively, though he's not weak as a typical marksman either. He's just a lot more objective focused. Lastly is our tank, Boxia. His time has finally come to be the premier tank of the meta with how strong Necklace of Durance is now, with his powerful passive that reduces enemies' regen effect by 30%, combined with Sea Halberd / Deadly Blade on our Freya or our marksman, we get a total of 80% anti-regen, completely nullifying all spell vamp / regen, even other shield based users. With his resistance to multi-hit heroes as well as the upcoming new Vengeance spell, which I think will be great on him, he's quite a force to be reckoned with. Boxia's mobility also plays a key factor in the whole Freya Popo Boxia lineup, as he's able to rotate from bot to top quick enough without needing a rival like Popo. Alright, so going forward, that will be the North America Lizard Trio comp that we will plan on running. I don't think either Boxia or Freya will become common. General community consensus on Freya is that she sucks, and while Boxia may get discovered, his PO isn't as the same as most meta tanks, which hopefully would discourage them from using her. That being said, Yi Sun Shin might get picked up and might get banned, but that's why Popo and Mia are backups. However, if Freya does get banned or whatever shenanigan occurs, we do have a secondary comp. Our secondary comp would involve Kimmy, Kaja, Sylvana, and Boxia still. The new Kaja with a suppression ult is just simply too powerful and a great Necklace of Durance spreader. The goal would be to have Sylvana lane with Kaja in mid, and have Kaja get fed and hyper carry, or have Kaja support the mid line while Boxia and Kimmy do their thing. Well everyone, that's it. This is my first time making this kind of video, and it was a lot more work than my typical gameplay videos. Hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing what I have to say about the upcoming changes and what I think is going to happen. Expect gameplay of these comps in the near future, or maybe some new comp we come up with. Who knows? Stay tuned until next time. Peace.